Having watched like 99% of the Timberwolves season, it's still unbelievable to see this stuff still working. Timberwolves win Game 7 against the defending champion Denver Nuggets on their home court while trailing by 20 in the third quarter. I've been saying the entire season, we play about a quarter of good basketball or a half of good basketball. We look miserable through such long stretches, but you just keep trusting this team because our best is better than everyone's best, it just seems. And when we turn things on, we bring on the spurt ability, we lock down defensively, and the shot making and the flow and the energy gets going, and the steadying force that is Anthony Edwards flows through this basketball team, it just works. It just works. And for it to happen against that team in these circumstances, it's still unbelievable to me. I've been seeing it over and over, and I even remind myself as I see these nightmare scenarios and even the repetitive things that happened in our losses of this series coming back and us still finding a way to overcome. What a resilient group this Timberwolves team is. I don't have to go through and recap the entire season because it's not over and we won. We will be facing the Dallas Mavericks for the in the Western Conference Finals. One team left in the West to get through. Luka and Kyrie, we are coming. I will probably analyze that series in another video. But let's talk through this game and the heroics that led to this win in the ultimate switcheroo that was categorized with stress through the entirety of it, as is custom in a Game 7 in the playoffs. Well, every Game 7 is in the playoffs, except for, I guess, the regular season game number 7. Anyway, game starts in nightmare fashion as I see that Scott Foster's propping out onto the court there. The referee basically as biased as it gets. And Rudy Gobert has been fined twice already this season for making the money sign at Scott. And Rudy Gobert would foul out in this game, unshockingly. He also gets an offensive foul called by Scott Foster 13 seconds into this game. And he would be called for at least one more offensive foul by Scott. That was hideous, horribly officiated game. Karl-Anthony Towns would also have 5 fouls in this one. Some of those just completely being bonehead fouls, his own fault. Although Cat was big time for us in this game. To cover through or go through more of this first half, I really hated how slowly we initiated offense. We really weren't getting into anything until 9 seconds into the shot clock. We just had 15 seconds to work with. There was a lot of slow dribbling, back downs with Karl-Anthony Towns, perimeter ISOs, Gobert getting the ball, not immediately able to dunk or close to the rim, and he did not handle those opportunities well outside of 2 absurd shots that he'd make in the second half. His turnaround fadeaway with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. We inbounded it to him. He hits that post fade going towards the center of the court, which is wild. And then his one lefty finish where it looks like the ball just starts to levitate and bank in. He didn't even get any force on it. Just the most awkward offensive player. It does not make sense. And then you have the 6 or so times that he missed doing those things in his 3 turnovers. But I felt like we were pushing things over to Gobert a lot more than makes any sense. And I usually push for a little bit more offensive involvement for Gobert this season when he's in the right spot. Didn't think that was the case. Karl-Anthony Towns, he had a good game. He was productive, shot making impressive. A lot of difficult ones, which is the thing I'm not pleased about, was because he had to make a lot of tough shots to get those points. Thankfully, he stepped up and did that make or miss league, and Cat was on making those tough looks, but he's got these really long back downs, which when you have that versus Jamal Murray and Jokic drilling jumpers and making plays, efficient offense on the other end, you don't like that when your offense is tough Cat ISOs and Gobert Euro steps competing against Jokic and Murray. Yikes. That's a scary equation, although that would change in the second half, thankfully. Although, also, I mean, the Nuggets didn't really get anyone really involved outside of Jokic and Murray, and that was one reason I felt good about us in the Game 7, is that I felt we had more people that could step up, and we actually did not get Anthony Edwards really stepping up in this game. I think he only had 4 points in the first half, I believe. He was getting double teamed basically on touch or just before he can really go into moves. He was a very willing passer in this one. He didn't force shots too much. Often actually got pretty good looks at the rim. Would pass it last second. A lot of those ending up in Jaden McDaniels' 3-point makes, who would have a huge game. He's made a lot of amazing plays in big moments throughout his career and in the playoffs. Jaden just continues to do that. He'll have his immature moments, the really idiotic things that need to be eliminated from his game, and even trying to bounce the ball off the floor and do a highlight dunk when the Nuggets had conceded the game, being a prime example. But dude steps up. Dude makes shots under pressure moments too, and is still an insane defender. But so many things went wrong in that game for us too, and we still managed to get this. Nickeil Alexander-Walker could not make jump shots, was not close on any of them really. Slow-mo through the entire playoffs has not been a productive player for us. So we didn't get much off the bench except for the sixth man, Naz Reid, who we'll talk about in the positive portion of the second half. How we ended the half. We've got some transition opportunities that we kind of fumble. Ant passes the ball up a little bit early, so Mike Conley tries to take a contested layup, gets swatted by Christian Brown, and then it ends up being a transition bucket on the other end. We end the half poorly. It was around 10 points for us that we had cut it to. Ends up being 15, which was the halftime lead that we have lost at least 2 games of this series, with that being the case. Also had the biggest second half comeback, or biggest halftime comeback in Game 7 history for the NBA. The other thing I want to mention about that first half was the second chance points were in extreme favor to the Nuggets. Jokic just getting tap-ins over and over and over. That was killing us. But we would have the hammers in the second half on putbacks with slams, too, that really sealed this one. And it was the third quarter where Anthony Edwards was determined, still making big plays, little bits of scoring sprinkled in there. Karl Anthony Towns, tough shot making. And then when we have him finish the quarter strong, getting the steal, strip, slam, we have a big run. Really lock up Denver, who gets very jump shot oriented. They took a ton of threes in this one, 33. I think Jokic ended 1 of 9 or 2 of 10 or something on threes. 2 of 10 for Jokic on threes, 4 of 12 from Murray on 3, 1 of 6 out of MPJ, 1 of 4 for KCP. And they just kept throwing up the threes. I was saying that really helps us. They were a low-volume three-point shooting team all throughout the season, and it is most scary when they're terrorizing us in the paint, and Jokic just doesn't miss floaters. So if he's not taking that, I feel a lot better about where we're at. And they just missed. I mean, eventually that just kind of wore down and really saved us. And we started to make some, and Naz Reid, boy, did he step up. Another really power punch in the fourth quarter, big plays. Karl Anthony Towns goes out with his 5th foul, no longer available to guard Jokic. You're like, all right, let's see how Naz does. He gets a block from the behind on Jokic when he had a second chance opportunity. That was enormous. Got the good jelly layup where he's leaning almost sideways, diving. Gets that finger roll to go off glass. The putback, vicious one-hand tomahawk slam. Absolutely ballooning that lead. And then a kick out to the corner for Anthony Edwards. Get us a 10-point lead. Going from a 20-point deficit, 10-point lead, 30-point swing. Crushing the hearts of the Denver Nuggets fans. And getting us that dub. Not exactly enjoyable through most of it. But we went on the run, we grinded out. Our best is better than anyone's best, is what it's looked like all season. We just did that to the champs. You got to be excited. Man, I'll catch you up on what's going on with Dallas, but how do you even comprehend what just happened? Again. Wowie.